Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Just waiting for the network. Doesn't appear like we have any bumpers tonight, folks, so we're kind of winging this as we get ready to go live in the network. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everybody, one and all, to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are in for 2 full hours of paranormal fun and goodness with every bite. Whipped up fresh in the Paranormal Portal kitchens before every show. Hope you guys are doing great. Happy Saturday. Wow. It's Saturday already. The time is just flying, but I hope you're having a great weekend. It was a beautiful day here today, and got out and did some mushroom hunting a little bit. I had a good time getting out in the forest and stuff, and while everyone else is looking for mushrooms, of course, I'm up there looking for Bigfoot sign. I don't think I really saw anything. There was a couple of odd bends and breaks, but nothing that couldn't be attributed to natural causes. So I don't think I found anything significant, but I still just love being out there. I love being in the wild, in the woods, in this amazing forests up here, because they are just energetic. They're just primal. They're just really powerful. So, wrong channel. Kelpie Inkbot is in the YouTube chat going, oops, wrong channel. Well, I don't know what show you were looking for, Kelpie, but I hope you find it. But thanks everybody else for being here, and hope you're all in the right channel. And this is a great journey into the Paranormal Portal, and we have a lot of things coming up on deck tonight. But first of all, I suppose I should introduce the fruit of my loins, my firstborn son, Mr. Sheldon Thomas. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Hopefully everyone else is doing great too. I am dark as heck here in my background, keeping those spooky vibes going.
Kirk Robinson says, let's get creepy, not pervert creepy, just creepy. Yeah, we stay away from pervert creepy all the time here on the portal. You know, sometimes we head into the gutter, but it's not to be creepy pervert, but it's just, you know, the low-hanging comedy fruit. What do? You grab what you can. You're trying to entertain people.
It's the best kind of fruit, you know, the low-hanging ones.
The ones you can reach. Yep, absolutely. There's not a big stretch. But anyway, we like to have a good time here on the portal. If you're new to the show, definitely hope you enjoy the visit. And, you know, we're going to be doing a lot of fun things tonight. Of course, we're going to be doing the Paranormal Portal newscast right off the bat here in just a second or two. But we're also going to go through more Germer Files after every break tonight. And if you're new to the show, Fridays and Saturday nights we're on the network, which is tfrlive.com, which is our home network, is the birthplace of the Paranormal Portal. And as such, TFR Live is also broadcasting on iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So they have to do, every 30 minutes, they're doing commercial breaks. And so we've got to adhere to that schedule. So those of you on YouTube here will be getting some music and videos having to do with the paranormal. So hopefully that makes it at least bearable, but I didn't want to pump a bunch of commercials at you guys on YouTube because, well, we get enough commercials as it is. So, but yeah, we got a lot of fun things on deck tonight, so hopefully we'll have a good time doing it. Remember, during the course of the show, after the newscast, if you want to call in and be a part of the conversation, you've got something paranormal of your very own to share, please feel free to do that. And you can do that by calling 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. The numbers are actually on your screen for those on YouTube under the words Paranormal Portal. So they're right up there, right where I'm pointing. They're little tiny things, but they are legible, allegedly. Not on my screen because I got like a micro version of the broadcast screen. But anyway, lots of fun going on, and hope you guys are ready to be wildly entertained, or at least mildly entertained. One of the two you should end up feeling tonight as we continue. So, let's see. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Oh, I suppose I should let you know. What?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about the email address. Because some people don't like to call in. They get freaked out about that. But they still want to share your story. Feel free to reach out to me via email at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. That's another avenue of getting in contact with us here on the show. What were you going to say, Sheldon? You're muted, Sheldon. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, that would make sense. For the YouTube channel, at least. If you see anything behind me, keep it to yourselves. I don't want to know.
Oh, sure. Yep, Sheldon does not want to know about the creepy shadows that usually cross behind him.
Yeah.
All right, so without further ado, I guess we should get to the news. What do you think, Sheldon?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're going into the Paranormal Portal news. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, and I'm joined by my co-anchor, Mr. Sheldon Thomas, who is right there on the screen. And that's actually the document screen as well. Because, yeah, so I'm going to be covering your face all night long, dude. But
oh, man, I wanted to be the star. Okay. Right.
You are the star in my world. Anyway, but let's start out here with some news. And as such, I got an interesting one here. I didn't ever expect that this would happen, but apparently it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. This is an article from unexplained-mysteries.com. Has an article that says William Shatner is going to space, aged 90. That's right. You heard it. You heard it first here. Well, maybe not first, but you heard it here. This article is dated today, the 25th of September, 2021, and it says the legendary Star Trek actor is set to become the oldest person ever to venture into space next month. According to reports, Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, will be one of the passengers aboard the next civilian flight of Jeff Bezos' New Shepard spacecraft when it launches in October. Like the previous flight in July, in which Bezos himself was a part, his launch will see Shatner and his fellow passengers reach the edge of space on a trip that will last only around 15 minutes. If he does go, the Star Trek veteran will become the oldest person in history to venture into space. There are rumors that a documentary will be filmed of the event. However, Discovery allegedly rejected the concept, and Shatner's team is now looking for an alternative channel to pick up the project. While neither Bezos nor Shatner have officially confirmed the flight, Shatner has previously mentioned it during a San Diego Comic-Con panel earlier this year. There's a possibility that I'm going to go up for a brief moment and come back down, he said. The current record holder for oldest person in space is 82-year-old aviation pioneer Wally Funk. I love that name, Wally Funk. That should be a band. Who joined Bezos during Blue Origin's previous flight in July. If Shatner's flight does go ahead, Funk's record will have been broken within a matter of months. Yeah, that's a little funky. Sorry, couldn't resist. But anyway, there you go. Captain Kirk will be actually making it to space for real this time, as is the case. So, kind of cool. What do you think of that?
It is appropriate. It is appropriate that he would do that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it kind of fits, right? Like he pretended to go into space for decades, so now he's actually going to do it. But there'll be no Spock and kicking around Spock for him on this deal, unless he makes Bezos call himself Spock. Okay, Bezos.
Rachel says, as long as he doesn't see a gremlin on the side of the spacecraft, all will be well.
Oh, yeah, that's from Twilight Zone, the movie. That's right. The original Twilight Zone movie. That was creepy. Yeah, I hope he doesn't see any gremlins either. But anyway, that's kind of a cool thing. I thought that was fun. Here's a different one, kind of coming from the archaeology field, but interesting nonetheless. Not everything on the news here is paranormal, but it's all unusual. So this is LiDAR reveals hidden secrets of the Teotihuacan. It says traces of the ancient South American cities can still be found in the roads and structures of modern Mexico. Wow, that's kind of cool. And it says situated approximately 40 miles to the northeast of Mexico's capital, the ancient Mesoamerican city of Teotihuacan, I guess that's how you pronounce it, was home to around 1.25 million people at its peak between 1,500 and 2,000 years ago. That's incredible. That was like a mega city. I knew there was people there, but I didn't know that we're talking like 1.25 million people. I didn't know there were cities that big back then. Seriously.
Yeah, true.
I don't know what ancient Rome was. What was the population of ancient Rome? Not the empire, but the capital. While today much of it has been built over by modern roads and buildings, the incredible feats of engineering achieved by its builders are still reflected in these structures many centuries later. Such feats include a rerouting of rivers to match points of astronomical significance, and the shifting of rocks and soil to change the alignment of the landscape and the buildings upon it. Now a new research effort combined LiDAR aerial mapping technology, ground surveys, and previously collected mapping data has helped to highlight hidden aspects of the ancient city's construction that are not only still around today, but have also influenced the construction of modern structures in the region as well. We don't live in the past, but we live with the legacies of past actions, says anthropological archaeologist Nawa Siguyama from the University of California, Riverside. In a monumental city like Teotihuacan, the consequences of these actions are still fresh in the landscape. The findings from the scans and surveys found that 16.9 kilometers of current waterways in the region had originated in the classical Teotihuacan landscape, and that 65% of urban areas had structures built along the same alignments as those the ancient city's builders had obsessed over. The Teotihuacan Valley's unique environmental, cultural, and academic trajectories support a multi-scalar definition of humans as geomorphic agents. Jesus, that was a mouthful. What the hell does that even mean? I'm not even sure what I just read. The researchers wrote, "Did you know people are geomorphic agents?" I didn't know that. I learned it today, though. What do you think of that, Sheldon?
Oh, I was muted the whole time again. All right, cool. Well,
it's okay. I
was
do
going
it
to
still.
say I don't even know what geomorphic agents even mean. I don't.
No, I don't. I'm not sure either, but it sounds really cool. I wonder if they got sportswear. they got T-shirts. I'm a geomorphic agent. Yes, indeed, folks.
I did look up the population of ancient Rome while you're reading that, and it said one website said roughly 450,000.
Whoa. Wow. So still much bigger.
A lot bigger, yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. All right, let's get on to the next one, and this was one from yesterday. So it's a newer one, and it has to do with Nessie. Not our chatter. Hey! Not Nessie, their chatter from New Zealand, but this one is the Loch Ness Monster was captured on drone footage. Allegedly. Let's see what it says. A canoeist who had been visiting Scotland's famous loch recently filmed something unusual near the shoreline. The footage, which shows a distinct Nessie-like shape moving beneath the water, was captured on drone camera by 54-year-old Richard Mavor, M-A-V-O-R, who had been taking part in the Great Glen Canoe Challenge to raise money for Alzheimer's research earlier this month. As is common with many videos of unexplained phenomena, Mavor did not notice anything unusual at the time of filming, but only spotted the anomalous extra when he reviewed his footage afterwards. "I couldn't believe it," he told the Daily Record. "I had to rewind the footage several times and have watched it several times since. I don't know what it is, but it certainly has the same shape as previous sightings of Nessie. There was no driftwood or anything like that, so who knows? The footage itself is actually quite impressive and clearly shows something in the water. However, it remains unclear what that something is. Some social media users have suggested that despite Maver's assurances to the contrary, the video does show driftwood emerging from beneath the water's surface and floating towards the shore. It's also been suggested that the creature could be a hoax created using CGI. Of course, that's what everybody says. Yeah, no matter what video you're looking, oh, it's fake, CGI. And which is funny because I don't think people realize how tough it is to make CGI look convincing. You can check out the clip for yourself below. Skip to 3 minutes 52 to see the Nessie sighting. What I'll do is I'll copy this link for any of you out there that want to look at it. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. Let me do this before I screw it up more. Here we go. Let me copy it instead of paste. Derp. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's going to be a long show. But here we go. Here's the link for those of you in YouTube that want to check it out, and I'll put it over in TFR as well in the chat. There's a couple options to chat during the show, one of which is to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/paranormal portal, and you will be watching the live stream of this, or you can go over to tfrlive.com/chat and get involved over there. There's a few people over there. Bam420's there, and Renee is over there. So there's the video for those of you in TFR that want to check it out. But kind of cool.
So would Nessie be considered a cryptid at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Cryptid just is a way of saying it's a cryptozoological animal, which means it's an animal believed by many to exist, but hasn't been substantiated by science. So anything that is that case, Bigfoot, of course, Sasquatch, Dogman, any of the above, rakes, the list goes on and on and on. But certainly Nessie would be one of them. Not the chatter, though. She's definitely real.
She's real, yeah, that's true.
We know she's real. So anyway, I'm not going to put that video on screen because, unfortunately, a portion of the audience can't see video anyway. So I put the links in those chat rooms, but you can check it out. And you can also check it out on unexplained-mysteries.com and look for that article, and you'll find it as well. Next article. This is a weird one. Little from the pages of the weird, and it's also an old one. But I thought, God, this is... I think people were whining in Flint about their water, but the people in Ohio might have more to worry about. Unexplained-mysteries.com. This comes from Friday, the 7th of June, 2019. Bright pink water flows from taps in Ohio.
It's just pink lemonade. Come on, guys.
Oh, I don't think so. Coal Grove residents were left perplexed recently after their water supply turned the strange shade of pink. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Oh, my God.
The abnormally colored water started to appear in the people's homes on Monday morning, promoting concern from locals and leaving officials scrambling to determine the cause. It turned out the unusual pink coloration was a result of a malfunction at the water treatment plant. You think?
Wow, yeah.
Wow, how'd they dig up that answer? I'm staring at the camera for those of you that can't see. Yeah, it's obviously from the water treatment plant.
Oh my God.
Let's see. It says that was caused by large amounts of sodium, permanganate to be dumped into the water. According to plant operator Stephen Burchett, the pink water is safe to drink. Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
After you, Mr. Gatorade. However, it could stain clothing if it's used for washing. I don't think it's safe to drink. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, no, unless it's a soft drink and it's colored weird, there's no reason your water should be pink. And if it is, you shouldn't be drinking it. The water has since been flushed out several times to try and get rid of the excess chemical. However, it may take a while for the pink coloration to completely disappear from the system. In the meantime, most residents are likely to opt for bottled water instead. Yeah, I would promote that. I would advocate bottled water. Look at that. I mean, if this was in your sink, are you serious? There's no way in hell that I would be drinking that.
I mean, this is almost like Ghostbusters, like the first one where
it's like that that time when it is. It's like the slimy water.
Yeah,
but
the pinky slime. Yeah.
It's there was an interview done by what was the God bless it, the makers of Roundup. What are they? The company. I'm trying to remember now. And I used to know this. I don't know. It's strange. Age is strange. Like names just leave my head now, what they never used to. But the makers of Roundup are being interviewed because of the chemicals in it, and they found that it's permeating groundwater wells, and it stays around like forever. It's been found in the breast milk of mothers breastfeeding their babies because this stuff doesn't go away. It's glyphosate, and I almost had the name, but I forgot it again. But the guy was being interviewed by like a 60 Minutes over, and I don't know, in another country like France or England or somewhere, and the rep from the company is like, "Oh, it's perfectly safe to drink that stuff." And the guy goes, "Oh, really good, because here's a glass I have especially prepared for you. Go ahead and drink it." The guy's like, "I'm not going to drink that. Wait, I'm not going to drink that."
Oh, okay.
Bam! What? Oh my God. I can't remember. I almost had the name again. I just keep forgetting it. But anyway, that's like this pink water. Oh, it's safe to drink. Really? You grab a big cup first, and then we'll talk. Hell no. Yeah. Hell no. You don't drink pink water unless it's Gatorade or some other, fun party drink. But no. Yes. Hell no. That's creepy. Yeah, there you go, Sheldon. Here comes another one. Cool. It's really cool. It's really disturbing. Because
it is, but
the thing is that came out of people's taps. So like that's like if you're gonna make mac and cheese, that's what you're getting. You're getting pink noodles and stuff, and no, it's fine. It's good for you. No, it's not. I don't care who says it's good for you. That's not good for you. If it was good for you, God would have made it that color.
True.
All right, let's continue on here. This is another one from unexplained-mysteries.com. This one's kind of a weird one. This one's from the 6th of June, 2019. Man cracks safe first time with a lucky guess. Wow. What are the odds of that? A visitor to a museum in Canada recently guessed the code to a safe that hadn't been opened for decades. The iron safe, which was on display at the Vermilion Heritage Museum, was originally the property of the Brunswick Hotel, which purchased it all the way back in 1907. It was eventually donated to the museum by the hotel's new owners in the 1990s. However, the combination had been lost and nobody was able to get inside it. Several experts were called in to crack the code, but none of them could do it. The last time the safe had been opened was thought to have been during the 1970s. It wasn't until a visitor to the museum, Stephen Mills, attempted to open the safe for a laugh that the combination as well as its contents were finally revealed. Typical combination lock: 3 times clockwise 20, 2 times counterclockwise 40, once clockwise 60. Tried the handle, and it went, said Mills. I could tell it wasn't open for a long time because some dust fell out from the locking mechanism. Sadly enough, it turned out that the safe contained nothing but a pay sheet and an order pad. They have no value, really, but they are really great interest to us, said museum volunteer Tom Kibblewhite. It gives us a little bit of an idea what the places were like in 77 and 78. That's not that long ago. I was alive then. It was, it's like, that's not like you're crawling back to the, 1910 or something. It's the 70s. But anyway, whatever.
That guy should buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, that's some crazy luck, huh?
No kidding.
I mean, I guess it's bound to happen. Maybe they let everybody give it a shot, but it's just funny. It was 20, 40, 60 done. Boom. Yeah. How do you like that? But that's cool, though. Nice. And we got one more, folks. We got one more. That'll be good for that time. Yeah, that'll be perfect. This is our last one for tonight. This one's kind of a weird one, and it's, again, from 2019, the 20th of May, from unexplained-mystery.com. Holy Spirit saves German driver from fine. Wow. Oh, that's a bird. That's cool. A driver captured on speed camera in Germany had their identity hidden by a rather timely dove. Police officials in the city of Versen near Germany's western border recently released this photograph after an unidentified motorist was snapped driving 54 kilometers an hour in a 30 kilometer an hour zone. They joked that the Holy Spirit had intervened to stop the culprit from being identified. We have understood the sign and leave the speeder in peace this time, the department wrote. We hope that the protected speeder likewise understands this hint from above and drives appropriately in the future. That's pretty awesome. I bet you that bird didn't fare real well after this, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast doves fly, but I'm thinking, 50 kilometers an hour is going to be a bit of a stretch. Maybe they can make it work. Maybe just glide it over the top of it, but you can see he's like, oh, God. He's trying to bump his way out of that one, but I don't know if he made it. Hope so. But anyway, this, ladies and gentlemen, has been a production of the Paranormal Portal News Network. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Which brings us pretty much back to almost the break time. We got a couple minutes left, of course, and we're cruising along, though. That's the first half hour. Now, remember, folks, when we come back, we're going to be going into one of our Germer Files, which is pretty cool. This is the first one that I'm going to play is one that I mention a lot on the show, and I was like, and Wes finally made a short of it, so I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to play that one tonight. And the episode in question is from I Shouldn't Be Alive. And it's the interview with Claire, the lady from England, who had the most unbelievable experience in California on the seashore taking pictures where she came upon a family of Sasquatch. And when you listen to her voice, you can hear the trembling. You can hear how much this, even though it was years prior, even, many years prior, it still is an emotionally charged event for this woman. And I defy anybody to say she's lying because you can hear it. You can hear that terror still present in her voice. So we're going to get to that when we come back. And also, I just want to make sure to mention that, the phone lines are open if anybody wants to call in. Of course, if you call in during any one of our videos, you're going to have to wait till the end. We'll get to you as soon as we can. But the phone number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And we don't have bumpers, so I don't know exactly when the cues will come in for the show. But I'm watching the clock here pretty carefully, and we'll just have to do it as carefully as we can. I think probably the people on the network are hearing the commercials, but for some reason they're not coming through the dashboard end for me, and that's okay. We can make it work. But anyway, folks, we got a lot to get through here left on the show, so the first half hour is about done, but we got a whole hour and a half to go, and we're going to pack that full of as much paranormal fun as we can do. So don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Yes.
yeah, I got to unmute myself. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the second half hour of the show now, and hope you guys are enjoying the journey so far. We got a long ways to go, but as promised, right away after the breaks, we're going to be playing some of Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles shorts. The next one that we're going to play, or the first one tonight, is actually I Shouldn't Be Alive. And again, listen to the passion, listen to the story. It's so incredibly powerful, and I mean, it's just, of all the episodes on Sasquatch Chronicles, it's in my top 5. It really is. It's just that amazing to me. But you be the judge. I hope you guys enjoy it. But without further ado, I guess we should get to it, huh?
Absolutely.
I was working over there. I'd just joined a software company, a fairly big software company. And prior to that, I'd been at working for an American investment bank. And I was out on a secondment to their offices in Mountain View. So the first weekend I was over, didn't really have anything to do. So I went around San Francisco, did the tourist things. Next weekend, I went up to Napa Valley, where they were just starting to put the vineyards in. And then the weekend before I was flying up to Madison, Wisconsin, I went up and stayed in Carmel Heights by Big Sur Forest. We don't have sea otters in the UK. And I'd gone out to photograph sea otters in Monterey on the Saturday. And I was staying in a hotel that's just south of Carmel, and the people down Monterey Pier had said it was really good photography to be had up further. If you drive south, there's lots of beaches and creeks and coves, bits and pieces. So I went there in the afternoon, probably about 3:30, 4:45, parked the car up. There is a trail that's quite an open trail. It's more like a path that goes down to a beach, and probably about half a mile to a mile from the parking area. And at the first beach you come to is very, very stony. And then you can walk across when the tide's lower. And there's a big beach moving back up north that is very, very sandy. It was great. There's a load of rocks on the far side. So I wandered up there, sat down. I got my camera bag with me, taking photos, and was really just waiting for the sort of sundown. So just about to go back, very happy with what I'd taken. And we have an expression, someone's walked over your grave. You really feel quite... your hair stands on end, you feel cold. And I looked over to the way I would need to go back, and there were... I thought, first of all, it was a huge cat, but it was much more big and bulky than a cat. And then there was more than one of them as they came round the promontory where you've got the cove shape. And I have never seen anything like it in my life. Very, very large, very hairy, moving on all fours. And there were several of these creatures, one behind the other. It obviously wasn't a cat because it was moving in a very strange manner. And the head kept popping up as if it was sniffing, and then... it popped up. It stood up on 2 feet. There was no other way to describe it. And it was bipedal. Must have been 7 to 8 foot tall. It was followed in onto this cove by 2 other 5 to 6 foot, maybe just over 6.5 foot, and 3 much smaller ones. The larger one, which was definitely male, waded into the ocean. The two others, the two larger ones, which were, I would have said, females, sat down on the sand with the smaller ones. The smaller ones were digging in the sand. The large creature, the really large one, was ripping out seaweed and throwing it back towards the females. And they were chewing the roots where it had been pulled out of the water and rubbing it onto their chests and around their necks, and then draping it around over their shoulders. So I'm just sat there, I'm just watching this. I can't say I was actually thinking anything more than stunned. And probably like the idiot I am, I just thought, well, no one's going to believe this. I'll take some photographs of it. So lifted the camera up to take photographs. Part of the lens kit dropped off, hit the rocks, went bouncing down where I was sat. And the large creature turned round. Every one of them snapped round and was staring toward me, at which point the male that was in the water basically was up to its, I'd say, mid-chest in the water, came striding out of the water. I've never seen anything move like that in my life. And basically it looked, the way it moved, almost as if it was gliding across the beach. One of the females, the larger one of the two females, came after it, and probably about 30 yards or so away from me, they had an argument, for want of a better word. They were screaming at each other in gibberish. The male that was in front it didn't take its eyes off me, but it sort of rotated from the waist. The head didn't really turn, it rotated from the waist. And it was like if you see a couple in a shop, it was verbalizing with her. It sounded like a language, and they were chuntering away back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. And it was like a couple having a domestic dispute. Then the body turned right back at me, and it just screamed. It was like no other sound I've ever heard. It was bellowing at me, and effectively it just threw down and slammed its fists into the sand, and then stood up. It basically, the last thing I remember, because I passed out, I'm presuming I passed out, I was feeling incredibly sick, was this thing, mouth wide open, big pink mouth, and it was obviously male. It had an erection and it was urinating, and that is all I remember.
Wow. And there's so much more to that encounter, folks. That's just the meat of her story. There's so much more to hear about what she experienced, including what she's put together after she passed out had happened, and then a strange encounter with a couple people following that event. So you really got to go back and listen to the whole thing on Sasquatch Chronicles. It's I Shouldn't Be Alive. It's an interview with Claire, and it's just so powerful. Again, you can hear in her voice the trembling as she's reliving this experience. And it was years prior. So yeah, but like Ruger says, you just can't forget that. You can't ever get that out of your head. And I'm sure that that's true. I mean, that's, obviously she's still traumatized to this day, or at least to the day of this recording. So, but there's a lot more to it. I encourage you to go over to SasquatchChronicles.com or go over to their YouTube page at youtube.com/Sasquatch Chronicles. Check out the full version of that, because there's a lot more in that episode that wasn't covered here. But that really encapsulates what she saw. And in her delivery, you know this woman is traumatized because her voice is trembling. As she's trying to get the words out, you can just hear the shaking in her body. And I don't know that can be faked, at least not that convincingly. And she's not an actress. She was involved in banking. So that's just so powerful. So, yeah, please do, Stephanie, if you haven't, go listen to it. I don't remember the actual episode number, but look through the archives. You'll find it, or just...
JCL Ohio says episode 515.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, JCL. I appreciate that. Yeah, 515 is the one you want. And, again, there's so much more to that episode that wasn't shared in the short, but what you heard was the meat of what she experienced. The strangeness goes on past that, but it's really an incredible thing.
Yeah, that's actually something something that Kirk Robinson in the chat said that's something I've wondered too. Is with some of these stories you hear about, like, oh, I saw this and then I passed out, or I blacked out, or that. And Kurt said, I wonder if it was fear or something else that made her pass out, and that's something I've wondered too.
Yeah, I mean, she was her senses were being assaulted by everything she was seeing. First of all, she saw something that's not supposed to be there, and then it's coming at her, and it's enormous. And some people have speculated, well, it's infrasound. When it yelled, it hit her with infrasound, and that's possible. But it could just be shock. I mean, in her mind, that thing wanted to kill her. And, I suppose when you're looking at something that's so amazingly huge and threatening, that you have no doubt that it probably can. So I'm sure that you probably get to a point where it's just a mental overload. Like your body just probably goes into self-preservation mode and shuts down. I believe so anyway. Wow.
Rachel brings up a really good point too.
What's that?
She says, it's crazy that the Sasquatch heard the dropping camera lens cover on the rocks as a foreign sound amongst all the other beach noises. I mean, when you think about the water crashing on the rocks, and they're amongst that sound, and from them walking around in the water, that a little lens dropping on some rocks, that they can hear it over that. So it tells that they have a very acute sense of hearing.
Yeah, I mean, they may be on par with tracking dogs and stuff as far as their sense of smell, sense of sound. They might be even more. I mean, like a grizzly bear has a nose that's like several times more sensitive than a bloodhound's, like 10 or more times more sensitive. So who knows what kind of nasal cavity these things are dealing with and how sensitive that is. But you have to believe that these are beings that probably survive based upon their ability to hear, smell, find food, and all of that, and to avoid things that would otherwise put them in danger. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if their hearing is absolutely off the charts, and that sound was probably might as well have been a car alarm, for them. So it is, but it is a great observation. Thank you for pointing that out, Rachel. That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. So we have about 12 minutes before the hour break, and then of course we're going to go back into another one of the Germer Files. But until then, let's do some paranormal stories. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's appropriate for tonight. I think so.
You think that's appropriate? Good, because that's what we're going to do. All right. So we've been going through an article we started last night on justforspooks.com. 26 people share the creepiest encounters they can't explain. So we're on number 14 of this list. And these are many different things. They're not all just ghostly, but a lot of them seem to be more ghostly in nature. But let's check this one out. Number 14. They filmed parts of The Exorcist at the college I went to. There were all sorts of spooky urban legend type stories told about the cursed filming of that movie, and feel free to look them up. I love ghost stories and urban legends, but our Exorcist campus stories didn't do much for me. The idea that the filming of a Hollywood movie would bring ghosts or demons or whatever to haunt college kids in their dorms was not particularly creeping or even interesting. Certainly less so than other campus legends that we had, like the dorm that used to be an old morgue, or the secret tunnels that ran under campus that were used to wheel bodies to the said morgue. I like those ones, but the Exorcist stuff just seemed hokey. Several weeks after classes had ended my junior year, I was scheduled to leave on one of those overseas volunteer trips that college kids do. Our group was scheduled to leave from campus and head to the airport together early one June morning. We decided it would be fun to spend the night before on campus together. That's how it always starts. All the dorms had been emptied out for the summer, with the exception of the one or two that they kept open for summer students. One of the people coming on our trip, however, was a school employee who lived on campus in a nice air-conditioned apartment in one of the closed-up dorms. As you're probably guessing by now, yes, it was a dorm in which they filmed an Exorcist scene, supposedly in the basement. Out of the whole group of us, there were only two guys, me and my friend Brian. The girls all decided to have a big sleepover on the floor in the staff member's fourth floor apartment. Brian and I decided to go off and find an empty room with beds, but not an air conditioner unit to stay down in the hall. Partly because we both wanted to sleep in a bed, and partly because hours of late night girl talk didn't interest us, and partly because we knew about the haunted reputation of the building and thought it would be fun. There was a lot going on in my mind that night. It was super excited about the trip. I had never been overseas before, and I really wanted to get a good night's sleep, so I started off the trip feeling good and not crabby. The room Brian and I chose was incredibly hot and stuffy, though, even with the windows open as much as they would go. And my mind was racing the whole night, thinking about the long flight in the morning. The hours just dripped away. At some point, after hours of lying awake, I started to feel like I had to pee. The only open bathroom in the building was down on the first floor, and I knew that was getting up and going to the bathroom was going to make me feel even more awake, so I tried to fight it. Also, as much as I didn't put much stock in the whole silly Exorcist ghost or whatever, the idea of going down to the first floor in the dark didn't seem particularly appealing. Eventually, though, the need to pee was just too strong. I got up and, using my cell phone as a light, found my way to the elevator, went down to the first floor, relieved myself, and started back up. I got back into the elevator and pressed the button for the fourth floor. Instead, the elevator decided to go down, taking me to the basement. That's creepy. That would be an unwelcome trip. Being that there was nobody else staying in the building that night besides us, my heart started pounding. I'd been in sort of a sleepy daze, and suddenly I was wide awake and thinking, what the hell is going on? When the doors to the basement opened, I closed my eyes. I didn't want to look out. I felt I felt my way over to the panel and peeked out just enough to find the button for the fourth floor, and I pressed it. The door started to close, but then jolted as if someone had stuck their arm between them to stop them. So I'm just standing there in the elevator. It's deathly quiet. I'm breaking into a cold sweat despite the fact that the building was like a furnace, and I keep pressing 4, and the door keeps trying to shut but can't. Eventually, I open my eyes and look out just to make sure there's not actually something stuck between the doors. And all I see is the pitch dark of the basement beyond. I'm starting to think I'm going to have to go out into that darkness to find the stairs if I want to get back up to the room. That's when I heard it, and I swear to God, this actually happened. I hear a person muttering something off in that darkness. I close my eyes again and just keep pounding on that button, and eventually the doors are able to close and they take me back up to the fourth floor. Suffice it to say, I never got back to sleep that night, and I started off the trip being really crabby and feeling out of sorts. That was by Karth von Monk. Wow.
That's terrifying.
That's a horrible story. I mean,
yeah.
When you're on an elevator and you're in a pretty much largely abandoned building, you're at the mercy of whatever's going on. It's not like you can just call maintenance to get that fixed. You're kind of stuck. Number 15 of our list is when I was little. Our house had an upstairs apartment that my grandfather lived in. My grandfather would sit in the front window smoking, drinking coffee, and just watching the neighborhood. He was very sick from cancer and died in our house. A few months later, a new family moved into the house across the street from us. The wife and my mom became friends, and one day the lady across the street asked my mom who the old guy was that lived upstairs and would sit in the window smoking and drinking coffee. Nobody had moved in upstairs. Ooh, Grandpa's still hanging out. That was by Chartito. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If that was a peaceful place for him, maybe he lingers there. Maybe he's dwelling for some reason or another. Not ready to make that transition. Number 16. A few years ago, I was at home with my parents and sister. My sister and I were sitting on the couch in the living room facing the kitchen, and my parents were in the TV room to the left of the kitchen. My sister and I heard a noise in the kitchen, but shrugged it off. My mom approached us and asked if we'd heard that noise. We instantly felt a sense of dread and said yes. In that instant, all three of us saw a black shadow float at the top of the entryway of the kitchen and then disappear. I walked over to the kitchen, peeked in, and saw that every cabinet was wide open. I hated that house after that. And that's the person that wrote it is I hate Mandy Moore. I'm not sure who Mandy Moore is, but apparently not a very likable person according to this person.
Mandy?
That's enough to make you hate a house for sure. I mean, it's like, why? Why do you do that? Why would they do that? Well, obviously they just want to be noticed. So that's pretty overt. We got about 4 minutes left. So this is number 17. When I was about 12, my mother's friend asked her and her other church friends to visit his house and pray over it. Ever since he had moved in, he had seen dark shapes, smelled bad things, experienced cold spots, heard voices, and his wife had been acting weird. Well, my mom took me with her because I presume I had nowhere else to go. Whoever had lived in that house before had drawn weird symbols in the garage, such as the all-seeing eye, and the whole place just had a very uncomfortable presence. This man had never stepped foot in his storm cellar. This is Oklahoma, so it's separate from the house, and the shelter just had an evil feeling emanating from it. And they all decided to open it, not thinking there would be anything there. And when they opened it, there were dozens of dried up dead cats and chickens that apparently had been sacrificed. This is in the city, so no real reason to have chickens down there. It was just a terrible, evil feeling. That was by Jay Langer, 23. Ooh. Yeah, those are bad signs. If you find a bunch of dead animals, then something pretty dark was going on there. There's not much as far as practices that involve sacrificing animals. There's nothing positive going to come out of that. That's only...
Guess you don't need to call pest control anymore.
No, just Ghostbusters apparently. Creepy. Number 18. I think this will be the last one we'll have time for before the break. But 18 is my cousin committed. Oh, I'm sorry to hear this. Committed suicide by jumping off the Renaissance building in Dallas, Texas. We buried her in the spring around Easter, and she loved stuffed animals and cute things, so I wanted to send her off with one. I'd found a stuffed rabbit to leave with her at her gravesite the day we were burying her, and I put the rabbit and a rose on the coffin as they were lowering it into the ground, and left once the ceremony was done. When I got home, the rabbit was on my dresser. I was so confused and still have no idea how it got there. Oh, that was by Lady Azure. Apparently she didn't like the rabbit much. She would have preferred a pony.
I don't like this one.
Leave it to Becky to always give me a rabbit. Jeez.
I think that's a beautiful sign, though.
Rabbits are full last year. No, that's very tragic. It is a beautiful sign. You're right. The idea that, hey, obviously it was noticed, it was appreciated, and that's kind of a cool closure. It's like, well, that defies all logic. That shouldn't have happened. So very cool. But ladies and gentlemen, I gotta watch out for my smacking of lips. I got a comment on YouTube. It's like, oh my God, what does that guy keep smacking his lips for? Now it's all I can hear. I can't even watch the show.
AK, stop talking. Just kidding.
Oh, and now here's Sheldon for the rest of the show.
No,
It's all you, buddy. It's all you.
no, don't do it.
Well, I can't smack my lips. No, I thought it was funny because I was like, you might have an issue with really insignificant things driving you crazy. But anyway, it was kind of humorous. It made me laugh. But anyway, I do want to make sure to mention, in case I forget on the other side, that following the Paranormal Portal on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live is The Spaces Between with Paisley Wild. So if you're looking for something to do after the portal, then you can just hang around if you're listening on TFR. And Paisley Wild will be coming up next. And if you're on YouTube and you want to check out our show, you can do that by visiting youtube.com/The Spaces Between. And she'll be coming up right next. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our hour break. We will be right back. And along with that, another Germer File. Sorry. I love a little theatrical. All right. Anyway, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
There's no sound. There we go. Duh. I do this every once in a while. I do this. I've got more to deal with since I'm doing these Sasquatch Chronicles shorts, and it adds a whole nother level to what I have to organize for the shows. But yeah, it should be good. Should have sound now, but we're waiting for the network to kick in. Yeah, I'm just getting all the muted notifications in chat now. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. If it was working correctly, you'd be hearing the Poltergeist feed anyway right now. But we're back. We are back. Just waiting for the network to get through the bumper. There's sound. The sound.
But we're back in action at least.
Yeah, at least. Until the end of the show anyway. But yeah, true. Hope you guys are liking these Sasquatch Chronicles shorts that we've been showcasing. I'm really absolutely honored to have the chance to do that on the portal because, truth be known, the Sasquatch Chronicles was really part of the impetus for me to start a show myself. I used to, work at a desk I worked in a cubicle farm basically, but I did web design and some advertising stuff, and I was constantly going through just the most mundane tasks over and over and over. And it was in my earbuds was always Sasquatch Chronicles, just on the feed, just running every episode I could. And it really got me through a long time doing that stuff. And I was like, God, when the idea came to start a show, it was like, boom. I mean, it was just right there. I want to do something like that. So that was the inspiration for what became the Paranormal Portal. So, I mean, obviously this is not a Sasquatch Chronicles show. They're two very different shows, but I did want to have a call-in show. That was really my desire when I started this. I just, it's Don's fault. So it's not Don's fault. It's Don's fault or it's not Don's fault? It's not
confused.
Don's fault. Oh, sorry, Paz. Hi, Brooks. Good to see you. And good to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for being here. So as promised, we're going to get into another one of the Sasquatch Chronicles shorts. Again, special thanks to Wes Germer letting us do this on the Paranormal Portal. These are a blast. I'm just absolutely loving it. And quite honestly, other than the technical aspects of making sure the show is running and muting and unmuting things and all of that, other than that, it makes my job quite a bit easier. So it's not bad when Wes Germer is creating some of your content. That's a pretty cool thing. So let's get on with the next Sasquatch Chronicles short. I hope you all are ready. Here we go. Kaboom! All right.
I like to go out in the mountains and kind of just get away and look for places to fish and gold pan and just kind of hang out and just look for new areas essentially. And I was on a mountain road system that was east of Quartzville. Essentially, I was up above Green Peter Lake and Foster Lake. I kind of I guess more or less outside of Cascadia, and I was on a road system just kind of heading east, and I was traveling along. It was the first part of May, and I would occasionally stop and hike along the road to make sure that it wasn't washed out, or because that early it's right after the snow season, and you don't know if like the road might have had a landslide or a rock slide, so you don't know if it's impassable or not. So you kind of want to stop at good spot to turn around if you have to, just to get out of there. And so I would check the roads ahead of me, and so I was kind of doing that, kind of leapfrogging until I got to actually a dead end. As I turned around to come back, I came around a corner, and it was kind of like a reverse S, if you will, if you were to kind of look at it like a topography wise. And it was a long straight stretch, but as soon as I rounded that corner, there was a rock pile in the middle of the road. That obviously wasn't up there when I headed up there. It was in the middle of the road enough to where I would have to drive around it. But I was kind of in shock a little bit because back in the early days, like I was saying earlier, of the Iraqi war, the locals would mark the roads with rock piles identically to that. And so I parked my vehicle. I was probably 30 yards away ish from that rock pile. And I got out to look at it. And so now essentially the road, as I was traveling, it's running. I was heading back directly west. The road was running at this point directly west and east, and I was heading west. The rock pile was off to the left-hand side that I have to go around. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm facing now directly to the south. I was just looking at it in shock, and all of a sudden, just, something started coming down the hill at me. I didn't know what to do. It was just, at first I thought bear, but as soon as it started breaking trees and branches and everything, it had no cares as it came down the hill at me. As soon as it came down the hill, I drew my weapon. I'm always carrying a weapon out there. I drew my pistol and I held, right in the direction it was coming from. As the road goes up, I guess I should explain that a little bit more. So there's a straight up cliff on my right side that goes down probably 400 or 500 yards to the Canyon Creek below, and then there's almost a sheer vertical side that goes up probably 30 yards, maybe, I guess, and then it tapers off and it goes to the top of the hill, which at that time I couldn't tell how far it'd go. And it was coming from the top, and my first thought was a bear as it was coming down the hill at me, because it was breaking everything it could in every branch along the way and just literally coming directly at me. I drew my pistol and it stopped, and I just held my pistol there for about a minute or so, and I was cognitive of I could move like laterally left or right, able to dump rounds whenever I needed to. And I was, at this moment I was confident there was a bear. I was getting charged by a bear. But I knew that the bear would present itself once it got to the crest of the little cliff, because it would have to pick an angle before it committed to going over the side, which I knew would give me, opportune time to actually start dumping rounds into it, because I have vulnerable spots to hit. And plus, bears aren't that reckless. They're going to want to make sure before they jump off a cliff, they're going to be safe to come at you. So that's what I was thinking. But it never showed itself, and I just stayed there. And so I held that position for a minute, and everything went deathly quiet. And my vehicle was probably about 30 yards away. And I just held my pistol in that position, for about a minute or so. And then, I held that position essentially where I was standing. And then I'm like, I just need to get back to my vehicle. And so I started making my way back to my vehicle. I never dropped my pistol. I never, I kept my sights directly where the sound was coming from. But it was, whatever it was paralleling me back to my vehicle. And I was about 30 yards away from my vehicle, roughly. And I could hear it right above me. It was always out of sight. It was just right above the crest of the hill to where I was, never able to see it. Finally got to my vehicle. And the way it was, I switched off hands real quick, opened my vehicle, started my car, kept the pistol up, got in my Jeep, and I just got on out of there. And I was just thinking the whole time, I've been in the mountains. Too many times. I've experienced every predator in the Pacific Northwest. I know kind of how they act. Coyotes, not going to happen. If it was a mountain lion, I never would have seen it. It would have been on top of me before anything else. Mountain lions are too sneaky, and there's the only probability was a bear. But what blew my mind was how it just knew to stop when I drew a pistol, at it. So kind of thinking of that, I was just, I'm going to go to my hunting partner's house and just tell him about what's going on, and maybe we'll go back up there. So I get to my partner's house, and he's just like, yeah, let's just go back up there real quick. And so we turn around and we drive back up there, and I'm in a mountain system essentially for, I guess, in between, Quartzville, outside Cascadia, east of Sweet Home, and Sisters, deep in the mountains. We get up there, and the rock pile's still there, and we're parked. We go up a little bit and we turn around as much as we could, and we started heading back the same way, and we kind of parked by the rock pile. We're sitting there for a few minutes, probably around 10-ish minutes or so, and it gets quiet, and that's usually a good indicator of predators. So it makes me think like, I don't know. But we start getting a series of whoops, and they came in sequences of 3, and it was just a whoop, 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 and it was like a perfect cadence. I've never heard anything like that. The mountain grouse up here will be almost equivalent, but not as, they can be close to it. If we were looking back towards our left, which would be towards the east, there was a steep embankment that was kind of it was like almost like a landslide had happened there earlier, but it was super soft gravel, rocks, sandish type clay, and you could see toe prints of something going up, which was weird. I've never seen anything like that, and they were 6 to 8 feet apart going up the hill, and it was just indentations that we couldn't determine if they were toe prints or not at that time yet or not. After a little bit, directly, we were getting the first series of whoops. Well, where those toe prints happened, we started getting whoops from that area, and they were in sequences of 3. It was a whoop, 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 and then to the far end, just around where you make the bend to get out of there, we started getting a sequence of 3 whoops. So in 3 different areas, we started getting whooped at 3 different times, or in sequences of 3, and time had lapsed, and we're just like, what the hell's going on? And my hunting partner was like, well, maybe we should shoot up there. And I'm just like, no, we don't want to start dumping rounds. Something's trying to surround us from an elevated position. It's an unknown something or other that's just whooping. And then a little bit of time had passed. The whoops had stopped, and a little bit of time had, probably less than 5 minutes or so, there would be a whoop directly to the south in front of the rock pile up above the tree line, and then to the left, and then to the right, and then in between the 2 spots. And then there would only be 1 whoop. And so now it's coming from, we're getting whoops from 5 different areas, and it's all above us. And at that time we were pretty spooked. We were just like, let's just get the hell out of here. This is not worth it. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Let's just get out of here. So we left, and then a few days later, talking to some, our other hunting partners and our buddies, we went back up there with kind of a fire team, and all experienced hunters, all, veterans, and we're just like, we can track anything. Let's just track something and figure it out. And so the way it was pretty steep and nasty terrain in that area, and it was kind of where the Cascades make the transition from Western Cascades to Eastern Cascades. It's not as brushy, but it's still pretty thick, but not, you're not covered in brambles or salmonberries or any of the blackberries, but it's still pretty thick. You were able to traverse the terrain a little bit easier than you would, out the coast. We dropped in from the top of the mountain and worked our way down, and it was, like I said earlier, it was like a nuke went off. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was just 8 to 12 inch Doug firs ripped out from the ground, roots, root wads topside and just shoved into the ground. There was structure-like type things, just tree breaks that were 15 to 20 feet high, just bent over, and it would be, if you could wrap a tarp around it, it would be perfect for a teepee essentially, and we found we found 3 different size tracks. We found multiple tracks, but we found 3 different size tracks that were, human footprint looking tracks around the area. And they weren't too big. I think the biggest one we found was probably maybe a size 15, maybe 16, but in that terrain, it's still pretty spongy. So something to have to weigh, have to have significant weight to leave that track behind. But we just watched that whole, it was just, I've never seen anything like it. And that's what kind of flipped me out, was just seeing, I mean, it was like a sheer carnage in that whole topside. It was just tree break on tree break. And it was, it was just, I don't know, just some of the craziest stuff. I've never experienced anything like it before, And so this happened about 8 years ago, I guess. And, listened to some of the guys tell their stories and stuff behind it. I was just like, well, I need to maybe call you guys and talk to you a little bit, maybe get some insight, just because I've tracked and hunted anything in the Pacific Northwest predator wise. And, I just never experienced anything like that before in my life. And and it's just some of the guys we were up there with were like, oh, it's got to be the Wiccans and their summer solstice party, and the other guys were like, oh, hell no. And for me, it's just like, nothing could come down the mountain that fast. And that sort of terrain is dense, and as dense as it was, at me, and then know to stop when I drew a pistol on it and paralleling me back to my car, which, was a trip. Yeah. So I don't know, didn't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And as I was telling you before, I know you didn't see the creature doing it, but I hear a lot of hunters have this type of encounter. So the trees were actually turned upside down and jammed back in the ground. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The whole root wad, it looked like, in Africa, they have those weird trees that grow, and it kind of looks like the roots grow top to bottom. And essentially that's kind of what it looked like. It was, they were healthy Doug firs that were pulled up. They had the root wads were, man, they had to be at least 12 to 15 foot in diameter still. They were just literally pulled from the ground and just, it looked like a tornado went off up there. It was just pulled from the ground and flung upside down and shoved directly back in the ground, like feet into the ground. And like I said earlier, my background's aerodynamics. So it's just, for me to see that, I'm just like, well, this had to have been a tornado. But then you look at some of the other ones that are just left behind and alone, and you're just like, how in the hell did that happen? There's no possible way. And then seeing naked like footprints around, you're just like, what's going on? It's just like, that can't be right.
But yes, it can.
Apparently, it can.
Really cool story. And again, I think if this is your only exposure to Sasquatch Chronicles, then I would really encourage you guys to go check out more. I'm sure that everybody in here has been a listener of Sasquatch Chronicles. Wes has really cut a lot of ground that we're walking through. He really made the pathway for us to follow, and he's been nothing but an incredible guy in many ways. Now, what these shorts don't do, though, is show you like his talent as an interviewer, because a lot of what he's putting together here are parts of the interview and puts them into one cohesive, quicker story for the sake of the shorts. But what you don't hear is how he asks questions and how he helps the people to better explain their situation, because some people are just like, yeah, I saw it and it was really big, and then he'll drill into that. He'll be like, well, can you tell me what did the face look like? What did this look like? And he really causes people to really jog their memory and really get into the details and brings it to life for all the rest of us. So he really is an incredible interviewer, and that gets lost on these shorts, but it's definitely part of the full shows. If you go listen to those, you can hear, him and what he does. But honestly, and this isn't me sucking up. I know Wes, we are genuinely friends, but I'm here to tell you that he is that guy. He's really that nice guy that you hear on the show. It's not like he gets done and he turns into, someone else. He and I have talked, hours on the phone, and he is that guy. And he's just that really down to earth, just like a buddy. When you know him, and it's just been a real honor. So, definitely check out the full interviews of these shows, because he really is very, very good at what he does. And in many ways, I think many of us doing these shows now are emulating that and trying to emulate that in what we do, because, you know, he puts people at ease. He has conversations. He really has done an amazing job. And again, special thanks to Wes and Sasquatch Chronicles for letting us show these on the show. It's just been absolutely cool.
Yeah, I think that's an testament to how skilled he is. I mean,
yeah,
he's like you said, he sets it up perfectly for these shorts, where he'll start out with the initial like description of the situation, but then he'll ask a question, have them explain more, but it fits so perfectly together that he can just snap them together, and it's just one cohesive story. I think that's really cool that he sets it up like that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, he's just done a hell of a job. Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate that praise, because if I was going to be compared to anybody in this field, being, you know, having parallels drawn towards what I do from Wes is really an honor, because that's definitely someone that I would want to emulate and have consciously tried to bring that into the Paranormal Portal. So I'm glad that it's, you know, that it's translating, because, you know, I love doing this and I love talking with you guys as well. But, you know, we all start somewhere, and he's been a real mentor to me personally in many, many ways. And he and I have worked together on a few projects since, and just, it's been really cool. It's just one of those really valuable friendships. And in life, I think you get, you know, many people may have many, you know, friends, or may have several friends throughout the course of their life, but there's always everybody has that core group, like, you know, thick or thin, you know, that person's always going to be there. And that's, you know, that's what I believe about Wes. I'm sure that he's, you know, he and I will be friends until the day that I'm done sucking air or whatever. You know?
Sucking air. What a description.
Yeah, exactly. So this is really cool. And Tony Merkel as well is a great guy, and does a hell of a job on the confessionals. I mean, there's some shows like Bigfoot Odyssey is awesome as well. You know, Carrie and Daniela do a wonderful job over there. There's a lot of great shows, and it's really neat. One thing that I think blew me away the most was when I got into this stuff, I thought for sure it was going to be really competitive, and it was going to be like, oh man, you know, I'm going to have to crawl over the bodies of my enemies to to get recognition. You know, I'm not literally, but, you know, you think that, oh, it's going to be kind of a dog-eat-dog thing, you know, and that was the part that I wasn't looking forward to. But then, you know, it was, you know, Wes just reached out to me out of the blue and said, hey, why isn't this a podcast? Why aren't you doing this? You should try this. And it's like, wow. And he's really been there to help to shape the portal in many ways. So it's just really cool. And I'm not trying to do a Wes Germer love fest here. I mean, honestly, if he wasn't this guy, I wouldn't be talking about it on the air, because, you know, if he wasn't the person that I'm telling you that he is, I wouldn't be wasting my breath on my show. But he truly is. He's that guy. It's not an act. It's just, he's just a good person. So, all right, where are we now? Okay. Well, that was a good interview, by the way. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Sorry, I ended up spiderwebbing into something totally different, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that you guys are enjoying these and that you're enjoying the shows. I love being able to provide this kind of variety, you know, and I think that that's important. On a 2-hour format show, that's a long time. And for many, you know, for a long time, it was just me reading stuff, and that's fine and dandy and stuff. But I love the fact that we can bring different elements like the news and now these Germer Files and, you know, more things that'll be coming in the near future that we're going to be introducing to the shows, because I think variety is important, and I want to continue to strive to bring you guys a show that you're going to want to stick around for 2 hours to watch. So hopefully we're accomplishing that. But anyway, all right, where are we at? We're going to get back to that article, right, Sheldon? Oh,
yeah,
you know what?
Yeah, we can do that. After the break, do you have another Germer file?
I do. Why?
Okay. Afterwards, I have a question.
Oh, do you want to wait till after that, or we got?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, I can't get to any more stories because I just looked at the clock, and we're down to about a minute before the last break, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to get to the last one. Hey, the Unknown, good to see you, brother. And the Unknown, he's been a good friend of the show for a long time. He's made a few of the video assets. He's made more that I haven't quite integrated into the show yet. But when you see that Paranormal Portal sign coming down with the tentacles shadow, that's him. The Unknown put that together for us. So very cool. Yeah, it does go super fast. You're right, Wen. This time is just crazy here on the portal. But We're going to go to break again, so just bear with us, and we'll be back with the final segment of our show tonight. And so hope you guys will stick it out. I'll put together these nice songs and videos for you guys on YouTube to check out. So anyway, we're going to go to that break, I guess, right now, because we should be hearing the bumper right now. It's kind of weird without those. It's funny how you become so dependent on those audio cues. It's like, oh, break coming. But I just got to watch the clock close. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our final break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with more of the Paranormal Portal and another Germer Files. So, hope you'll be here when we come back. We might take attendance, just saying. All right.
Yeah.
And we're back, but we're waiting on the network. I just gotta pull this up quick.
Gosh, I love that E song.
Yeah. Oh, that one?
Yeah.
That's Tribes, yeah.
I
wrote
it's
that
called
one.
the E song.
What was it called? The E song? Okay.
It's
I
the
did
E
not
song.
know that. I did not know that's what my song was called. Yeah, I wrote it actually because I was going to do a Sasquatch documentary, just putting together clips and pieces from this area, but it never actually got off the ground. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just use it for the show. So that's Tribes. That was one that I wrote a few years ago, but it's worked out good. So I made it into a Sasquatch break instead.
It's nice.
Oh, thanks. I don't know. It had a tribal feel to it, so I thought it would fit. All right, folks, we are back. Last half hour of the show is here, if you can believe that. It's been going quickly. But again, as promised, we'll go through a Germer file here. Last one of the night. And this one's only about 7.5 minutes, so it's not real long. But hopefully it's a dandy, another one you guys love. So let's check it out. Are you ready? You ready, Sheldon?
Always.
All right. All right, let's go to this one, and then we'll continue with the rest of the show.
I was out on the river. I was going to do some frogging, and I usually go out there, like I said, a few hours before, so I can just pretty much get a hand on to see how many people are going to be in the general area. If there is going to be anybody there, just to go frogging. If there's going to be too many people in that area, I would have moved to another area. But it's not all the time is there people out there. It's just I usually like to try to go out there a little early. Area that I go to is known in this area as Oaks, and it's a big oak head, and it's about I-95 is the closest main road, and we're probably a good, I don't know, about 20 miles off the road, and it's all marshland, so the only real way to get out there is an airboat. And so I was running along, and I was going out to the oak head, and pulled up in there, and as I was pulling up in there, I seen something shoot off into the bushes, and I waved it off as a hog. There's a lot of wildlife around in this area. It butts up against a farmer who owns a lot of property there, and they put a lot of hay out there, so it brings a lot of deer in the area, and it brings a lot of hogs in the area. So I just pretty much passed it off as maybe it was just a hog, bringing up in there. And it may have just been a hog. I never knew it was the big guy. And I'm sure if there was the big guy, I would have seen the sheer size after, But anyway, I pulled my boat up into the oak head, and I spun it around. I usually try to get the front of the boat to point the river. So it's when I get ready to go, I just fire up and just, get the boat out to the river. And so I ended up pulling up there, and I shut off the motor, and I jumped off my front seat onto my bow, and underneath my seat, I got basket seats. I had my thermos down there, so I got my thermos out. I got some coffee, poured a cup of coffee, and when I went up to get back up into the seat, I heard something really going. It sounded like a freight train just running through the palmettos. It was just tearing up palmettos. And, I felt a little safe because I'm up on a boat. I'm probably a good, standing on the bow, I'm about 4 feet above the ground. When I stand up on my seat package, I'm a good 8 feet off the ground. So you're pretty safe when you're standing up on the seat package where your seat is. And, so then something started just banging the ground, just hitting the ground, and I could feel the vibration in the ground from whatever was hitting. And then it was a few seconds later, something just made the most god-awful noise I've ever heard in my life. It was just a shriek, a screaming. It was just making all kinds of noise. And then that's when the mud started flying. And some mud flew out. Something hit the side of my boat. I didn't see what hit the side of my boat. I turned on my headlight to look in the back of my boat, and a big old piece of mud hit the back of my boat, hit my rudders. And I looked up and over to see what was throwing the mud, and I looked in the direction where it was coming from. Some flew over my head, and that's when I seen what I saw. And it was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't know, it scared me. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. I I didn't know if it was really what I was seeing, or if it was there's oak trees all in there, but the color of them, he was a lot lighter than any of the trees, so you could pretty much make out what was standing there, and it was huge. It was super huge. The biggest thing I've seen in my life, and it scared me to the core. And he was big. He was huge, and he was pumped up, and he was very upset. It was super huge. It was a big dude, and it didn't look like a man, but it didn't look like a monkey either. I mean, I hear some people say they look like gorillas and all. It didn't look like a gorilla. And it had a brow ridge all the way across its face. It had a big mouth, super huge mouth. The eyes were kind of sunk in, and his face looked real leathery, like brown leather and rough. And he didn't have a lot of like real long hair or anything. The hair was like brown, light brown, like a leathery color. Had a beard. You know, it had hair around his neck area. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, he had junk, you know, you can see that. And he was just ungodly size. I've listened since then to certain stories on the internet and everything where they say they're super huge upstairs, their body and upper body and everything, and they're skinny, and their legs are real skinny. It wasn't anything like that. The legs were huge, his arms were huge, his whole body was huge. And he was and the front of my boat, I'd say, is a good 4 foot wide, and he was every bit of that. He was huge. It was just a big mountain of meanness. He just was looking at me like he wanted to kill me. He just looked like he was mad, very mad. His mouth wasn't open at that point, and I mean, all the noises that they made before that I heard, it had to have been that it made the noises, and I'm hoping to God there was only one there. For all I know, it could have been more. I don't know. I was just mostly focused and fixed on him because I was at that point then when I really knew who was looking at me and everything. I was trying to figure out in my mind how I was going to be able to turn around and fire up my boat and get out of there alive. Because I didn't want to turn my back to it because 25, 30 feet from where I was standing on my seat package was this guy. It was the big guy. And it would have took no time. I mean, he would have been on me before I would have been if he really wanted to, I guess. He could have been on me and it would have been no chance. I mean, it would have folded me up like a pretzel. And I'm a big guy. I'm right at 6 foot, weigh about 240. And I'm nothing next to this thing. It was just hard. It was really hard.
If you use these to remove earwax, get rid of them.
Well, there you have it, folks. Sorry. I got an ad poking through on that one. My apologies. But there you have it. That is the last one tonight. But as you can see, the interesting thing, and the reason that I love that show so much is because you can hear it in their voices. You can hear in the way that they're describing what they experienced. You can hear the emotion. And even the other part is that it's such a cross section of people. Like tonight, there's been a ex-military, and before that was Claire from England, a banking exec, and then this guy was just your average Joe, and all of these people had these experiences, and I think hearing their voices, to me, is what really drives it home, because when you're looking at text on a page, or where somebody's transcribed their story, it's just words, or if you hear someone narrate somebody's story, it's just words with maybe some emotional inflection, but you really get a sense of the experience by just listening to the passion and the conviction in their telling of it, And I always pay attention to not only what people are saying, but how they say it. And to me, every one of these has been just so powerful. It's just pretty incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean the things you can kind of connect between the stories too, that show consistency between descriptions of what they're seeing too, is pretty powerful as well on its own.
Yeah, and it's also kind of cool that I always like the ones that say, well, people are describing this way, but that's not what I saw. And it would be easy for everybody to go, yeah, it's just like what everybody said. That's what he looked like. But these people are coming back with, no, that wasn't what I saw. What I saw was this, and the things that I noticed were this. I mean, it's easy to just go along with the well-worn path of this is what they look like, this is what they do, this is how they act, the end. But the fact that these people are bringing back experiences with such a diversity of experience, and quite commonly you get these territorial displays, and really it's got to be absolutely like underwear scraping moment. I mean, it's just like it's such an overwhelming sense of this incredibly scary display of physicality crashing through palmettos, and I think, who was it? It was Rachel that was talking about the skin must be thick, because you always do hear that, and that's true. Their skin must be really thick. It must not be like ours where, we scratch against a thorn and all of a sudden, we're bleeding everywhere. Their skin must be quite a bit thicker because they're always crashing through brush. You hear them like, I came through like a freight train. And well, I'm here to tell you, even just having been out in the woods today, it's like I'm doing this all the way through, trying to hold branches back and stuff because, they're snapping me in the face, and it's just a 0 on the fun meter. But then you hear these things are just like, "Urgh," and they go into this like Hulk rage, and they just boom right through it. And it really reminds you of like a silverback charge, the way that they'll just blow through stuff. And, I suppose the hair is part of it, but I think that there's probably some real merit to the fact that their skin, their dermal layers are much thicker than ours. And maybe that's
even bones too.
Well, yeah, clearly the bones would have to be so much more dense and strong, but that's the case for, even chimpanzees and stuff. Any of these animals that have such an incredible amount of strength for their size, they have to have a higher bone density just to handle that extra strength. Because otherwise they would snap their tibula or fibula or, all radius ulna when they flex, just because of that power. But yeah, there's so much going on here. Yeah. The unknown says, exactly, Brent. I like to think I can tell if people are lying or not by the tone of their voices and how they explain things. Exactly. Like I'm almost doing it from an empathetic place when I'm listening. I'm just really relying on my sense of empathy. Am I feeling that emotion or not? And quite honestly, I know Wes really screens the people that he does have on the show, and I really think his barometer is he must believe it, because if he's having them on the show, these are people that are pretty convincing in their telling. I don't think he's ever just saying, oh, I don't care what you got to say, come on. He does have some checks and balances for that before they appear on the show, and clearly when you hear these episodes, you can hear that these people are pretty convinced that what they experienced was real. And I am too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, so if you don't mind it, is it okay if I ask my question?
Oh, of course. I don't mind.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else planned. But my question was like, as far as when, Wes gets a lot of stories, you read a lot of stories and get stories as well. Mm-hmm. What, as far as what, if you know what Wes looks for, but what do you look for specifically as far as maybe not look for, but what do you hear that makes you think, I don't know if this actually happened, or if maybe this is a clout chase or whatever it might be, what makes you think that I don't know if this is real.
My process is, and I've turned people down that have submitted, but my process is that generally somebody will send me an email or will talk to me at some point, and I say, hey, get in touch with me. What if right off the bat, whatever they're sharing has me questioning, I definitely try to, in most cases, pre-interview people. And essentially in that pre-interview process, I ask them questions about it and what happens, and the ones that I have turned down were and maybe these people were still telling the truth, but it's either they just didn't seem to really be able to relate what was happening in a real cohesive manner, like they're all over the map, and it was like, oh, it's going to be like herding cats trying to make sense of this on a show. But the other thing is if they can't, if they can't fill in the blanks, like when I ask them a question, well, what do you think was going on here? What do you suppose was this or this or this? And one, and I'm just paraphrasing this, but this is an actual discussion I had. One guy claimed that he was friends with an alien commander that was in charge of watching out for the Earth, and would commonly go up in the craft and go around with this guy and stuff. And that's a fantastic claim. And I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around. So I asked him, well, where is he from? Have you found this out? Oh, and it is this pause, and I don't know. It's maybe something. I think he said something that it doesn't exist anymore or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Why did he choose you? Has he ever explained this to you? Oh, and just all these the basic things that you would think would come up with a person when they're trying to grasp this incredible experience they're having. And so I can't say, since my umbrella is so much bigger as far as the kind of things we cover, there's no one set of rules that I can use for a criteria, because each phenomena is unique and distinct. There may be factors that are bleed throughs to others, but I can't ever just shut the door and say, no, this didn't happen. You're full of it. But if I can't walk away from that discussion feeling like, I'm really hearing this person and can really understand their experience, then it's hard for me to do a show. And sometimes it's not because of credibility or plausibility. It's just that if the story doesn't make sense and I put it out for our listeners, it's not going to make any more sense to them. And so I don't ever want people to feel like they've wasted their time listening to a show. Now, I don't have any real strict criteria like, well, if you don't have furniture moving and plates flying and, all this stuff, I don't want to hear from you. Anything in paranormal, I'm absolutely interested and want to hear about. If your cereal bowl moves, I want to know about it, because that's fantastic. It may not be like Hollywood, but it's still a fantastic experience. But again, for me, it just gets down to, if I can't walk away from a discussion or with a conversation with a person feeling like, wow, that's really a cohesive, incredible story, then I can't really do it for a show. And I feel bad ever having turned anybody away, because I know people want to share what they've been through, but I also have a responsibility to the listeners to try to give them a show that makes sense and has a bit of logic to it. So it's a tough thing. And, and I my hat's off to anybody that contacts me. Either way, I will try to help them or put them in touch with people. But if it's just not cohesive for a show, then I can't make a show about it, so that's the tough part.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Android, thank you for filtering out people who are unable to answer questions about their experience. Those likely could be made up, and they don't have answers for the most questions you ask. Yeah. And that's the thing. I know there's some people that just get a kick out of, I'm going to make up something, I'm going to get on this show, because I don't ever want the show to be a joke. I take a lot of pride in the Paranormal Portal. I take a lot of pride in having the opportunity to speak with so many people from all walks of life that have these incredible experiences. But, if I let somebody on the show that I don't believe, then I'm shooting my own credibility. It's not worth it just to put some content out there, is my point. And I'm not saying anybody does that or doesn't do that. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but everything that is ever presented on the portal, you can guarantee it's supposed to be real. I can't always, vouch for the fact that every article I read is absolutely real and there isn't fabrications on there. But if I'm reading something and something seems fishy, I'll be the first one on the show to say, I don't know, that doesn't sound right, and I at least speak to that. But I don't want to ever do shows where it's just a bunch of crap and, we just put out a show to put out a show. So
yeah, that's true.
That to me is important. But thanks for that question. That's a good question. I've never really addressed that on the air before, so I appreciate that.
First time for everything.
First time for everything. Number 19 on our list from Just for Spooks. When I was born, we lived in an apartment. It wasn't big, but apparently there was one little hallway that absolutely terrified me starting when I was about 15 months old. I would just stand still, stock still, frozen in place, wide-eyed, refusing to go past it. When they asked me what I was scared of, all I would say is, the luck. Not long after, we moved to a house in a few blocks away where we lived until I moved out on my own. No sooner had we moved in than I became terrified of the back end of one particular hallway, acting exactly how I had in the apartment and insisting that it was the luck. Apparently, I seemed to be the most scared of the corner up by the ceiling, but I would avoid the whole hall at all costs. As I got older, I stopped being afraid, and while I could remember how scared I'd been, I realized one day I couldn't remember what I thought the luck was. 30 years later, I was living in a different state in the house my husband and I night when we found out. I don't know what that means, but anyway, when they found out I was pregnant with our daughter, first kid born when I was almost exactly the same age as my mom when she had me. She started to have nightmares not long after turning 1, but one night when she was about 16 months old, she woke up screaming like I'd never heard before. I ran up there, and she'd just woken from a really bad dream, but she was inconsolable long after I picked her up. I started walking her all around the house, just trying to soothe her back to sleep. But finally, I had to pee, so I took her into our bathroom and turned on the light, and as soon as we walked in, she stopped crying and calmed right down, I think. It says called right down. I've never seen her do anything like that, so I asked her, "What were you so scared of, my sweetheart?" She looked right at me and replied without a beat, "Uck." Wow.
Oh.
That was by Kishiruvana.
Wow.
Kashiruvana. So, yeah. It's kind of like the dream of the old man with the top hat or the cowboy hat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a kind of a generational thing. I had been plagued as a teenager with these dreams of this man all in a dark cowboy duster jacket with a kind of a flat brimmed hat and older. And Sheldon, one day you came to me and said, "I'm having these bad dreams." And then you started explaining. I'm like, "Wait, was it this?" And you went, "Yeah." And then my middle son, Oliver, when he was about 11, he came up to me talking about bad dreams he was having as, at that age. And he explained that there was this old guy. And it's funny that all three of us had that same weird, tormenting dreams. And then, they just end one day. Like I got, through when I was about 17 or 18, I think I was all done with those dreams. And I think it would probably be about the same to you, as I recall. Right?
Yeah.
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 So very strange stuff, but this is kind of the same thing. It's like a generational thing. I don't know what it is, but.
Yep. Elijah's next.
Yeah, I hope not. I keep wondering about that, actually. We'll see. I guess if he has it eventually, then, at least we'll know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we got? 2 minutes left? I can't read this in 2 minutes. Nope. This one maybe we'll save till tomorrow night or whenever, but we'll get to that one eventually. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. It's always sincerely, and I say this all the time, but I couldn't be more sincere when I say that I truly love doing these shows, and I love that you guys continue to show up and be a part of it. To me, that is just about the greatest honor I could ever hope to have, Dreams, what did Paz say? Dreams, that's an awesome story, Brent. Yeah, but it was really terrifying. And no matter what I did in my dreams, I couldn't get away from this guy. And
Same.
I'd be dreaming really lucidly. Like I could dream I had, kind of like on, what was that, Nightmare on Elm Street? No,
Yeah.
you got to get down, dude. Where there's the Dream Warrior one, where the kids have like superpowers. I could make those happen, and still, it didn't matter if I was like hitting like the Hulk, I could hit this guy and it'd just be like thunder, and he would just look at me saying, "You can't hurt me. You can't get away from me." I was like, oh my God. Jump up on buildings, he'd be there. Running like the speed of light, he would be there. It's just like, oh my God, they were totally lucid, but I couldn't get away. And that was your experience as well, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means, what is going on, but crazy stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, that was the show. I hope you had a good time. Spaces Between is coming up next, so make sure to stick around for that. Sheldon, quickly in closing.
If you guys want to stay connected to us and our community in general, you can join our Discord server. I'll put it in the YouTube chat so you can join us and talk with us afterwards.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. I'll be back tomorrow. I think Sheldon will be with me. We'll do the night terrors. Yep. Good night, everybody.
Good night.